This is actually the fourth attempt I've had at making this video, so now I'm just gonna go for it. So this is gonna be the second video I'm making on some art stuff I want to put out there. I want to put out there just on my channel in case someone ever stumbles upon it and would like some advice. So I've had to do some things. The stuff that I talk about is it. I do use Ibis Paint X, and that does help a lot. But like this isn't like something that's like exclusive to just this app or anything, which is why I kind of want to make the stuff I say be more of a general thing, rather than it just be like, oh, if you use this specific tool on this specific place, this is how you can do it. I kind of like want to try and make it as broad as I can so it can carry over to someone else. Okay, so for this one, it's gonna mainly be centered around shading and lighting. And I remember I had this picture that I was making. It's of a Xenoverse character I had. I'm probably gonna use at some point. Yeah, and I was about to start shading and doing lighting and stuff with it. But I thought this probably be a good chance to at least get something done now that I've started this. First, okay, so my usual process is in regards to shading is as you can see, I made a separate layer on top of the color layer and put the multiply filter on it. But if you don't have something like that, like you can't use filters, it's just like another thing you can do is just do the color pick thing, like hold up, like that, and just lower down the darkness. It just kind of just get the vibe that you want off of it. And so what the multiply filter basically does is kind of like how the name emphasizes it, like multiplies it like increases the contrast of it. Like if you have like a like for example, if you just use this with the multiply filter, you can kind of see it's just like a little bit darker, but it's like still roughly around the same. But if you make it like this, it's gonna be like it's gonna increase the darkness by a lot. Just like it also depends on the color contrast of the color you're putting it over. Like that's how it looks on this. But if you put on something darker, it would kind of look more of a black. So it's really just dependent on what you're using it on. Well, first, for just lighting in general, you want to figure out where the light is going to be coming from. Like that's kind of like the first thing you want to go over, because like that will dictate a lot of where you're gonna put your shadows and stuff. Typically, what I do is I like pretend like my light source is coming from this way. It's like shining down, and like you can add, if you're starting off, you can like add this kind of just as kind of like a guide of what to go for if it helps out. But just in a general sense, I like to go for like the top left corner of it, just because it's kind of just, I guess, the easiest position to go for. It's at least, I feel like it just translates more in a general sense than like other places. If it's like the bottom right corner or something. And with that in mind, most of the shading just kind of goes from eyeballing it. It doesn't have to be exact. I guess if you want to be more precise, you can go for that. But it doesn't really have to be exact. It's more so just figuring out where you think contrast would be needed, and just kind of filling in the blank space. But something that you don't want to do is put in too much shading, or well, I guess it depends on how dramatic of shading you want. But you usually don't want to put in too much shading to where it makes like the whole thing like kind of just like too dark, or like the original base colors kind of just blend out. So like you kind of just want an eyeball where you think it would look the best, and just go from there. For example, the light sources. For example, I'm gonna put some here. Gonna put some here. And I'm probably gonna make my shading layer kind of dark, but you're gonna see why I do. Well, I'm gonna make my shading color a bit dark, but you're gonna see why I'm doing this. What's something I'm gonna do later on. With the light source coming from here, the shading on this part wouldn't be too harsh, if at all. But I'm just putting it there just so it could be a little bit of contrast, as opposed to something like this, where the head's blocking this part off. The shading would look more like something like this. If you're trying to be exact with it, it was probably like kind of like curve around like that. Obviously not like this exactly, but you know. Though it does kind of depend on how intense of lighting you want again. Because that will also depend on how far you want the shadow to reach out. Yeah, that's kind of like where I would imagine if like the light source is coming from here. It would like it beams down here. The top of the head would probably like be covering this part up. That's at least you want to go for a more realistic thing. But like I said before, usually what I like to go for my art is just making it more of a putting stuff down for contrast rather than like exact shading or lighting, because like you know there isn't like an actual light source here, so I don't really need to worry about that much. And I think it kind of just makes it look neater for just more general art. And at least for and I also like doing it this way more because like I feel like you have like a lot more freedom when you're doing it, as opposed to trying to figure out like where everything realistically would be. And now you just be like wherever you just think it would look the nicest. Usually when I'm doing shading, I like it just, I guess, kind of use it to highlight some edges, where like I'm just like putting it where like, cause like it does give the drawing more dimension, cause now that you have the shading, it's like it's actually like something's being casted in front of it to cast down the shading of it. This isn't exactly like a one-to-one shading thing. It's kind of just to give some hints towards it, so you can like go in whichever direction you want to. For closed folds, they're a bit harder to, well, not a bit. Well, I think closed folds aren't as hard to do if you're just depending on what you want to do. I think closed folds, like when you're trying to do those, it's really just kind of you kind of just want to go across the lines you've already made for the folds. and just kind of just connect them a bit more. There's like I don't really have like exact science on as to what to do for that. There's not really like one thing to really do. It's kind of just like drawing them together and making sure, and like it's like kind of like connecting them as best as you can. So like there isn't like too much blank space in between each part. Something I do want to mention, even though I am using I'm using like the colors themselves to do the contrast, do like the shading with. You can't. I think sometimes, I guess, depending on the kind of drawing or the kind of color or the kind of like I guess maybe lighting that you want, you could do things like use complementary colors to them for the shading instead. Like I've seen like some people use, like instead of use like the color itself or like black, they use like a dark purple, for like the color contrast to make it stand out more. Which I think does work a lot. And actually I like to do that when you're working on stuff like the like against whites and stuff. Like I like since like the main, that's like I guess like the primary color of this is like a bluish. I like to go to like a kind of like this saturated, darkish, grayish blue. You kind of go along with that, so it's not so instead of using something like a just a plain gray. Cause at least if you're trying to do like colorful or like vibrant colors like this one, I wouldn't recommend using something like at least too many grays and blacks, because that kind of dulls out the picture. It is kind of better to use, because like in comparison to something if I just use like gray, it's like, yeah, it works, but it's like it just doesn't look as clean. It kind of just makes it mesh out, I guess. It's the way to put it. Now, when you're drawing on stuff like grays and blacks, obviously, since it's on like gray and black, you can't really go too much darker into that. You don't want to just like make it pitch black, or else it's gonna like blend in with like the line art if you're using black lines and stuff. So I kind of like this. So I kind of just do like the same thing as I do like with the white. Just like make like a darker. It makes it kind of like a desaturated blue or desaturated whichever color you're using, so it doesn't become like completely black. Like you see how like that's like not really like black, even though it's on the gray. And like even on here, it's like kind of just like a darker gray rather than just straight black. So obviously you probably can't tell much of a difference when you're just like looking at like the whole thing, but you'll know the difference as you're drawing it. That's all that really matters. Another thing I want to mention with when drawing like shading and stuff is that like I said before, where you're doing shading, it's a lot of times it's done to add more dimension to it. So when you keep in that mind with shading, you don't have to make it like exactly like follow like the line that you're doing, because like especially if it's like the part that you're shading has like a different shape to it. Like here, like for this, since it's like bigger and it's more of like a circle rather than like how the arm is, I made the shading line go up higher and add a bit more of a curve to it, so like a circular shape kind of gets defined more to it. Yeah, same thing what I do here, where like I'm adding like a curve and making the shading line go up higher, even though it's not exactly how I want it. As you can see, by the way, I've been using the paint bucket tool for I'm filling in the stuff. Not because like, I can't like go in by myself with my stylus. I just feel like it's just, I guess, not really needed yet, not really needed right now. But when you're doing that, right? If the colors that you're like shading and the colors that you're shading over are too close, and you put any pen bucket tool, will kind of just fill in, all kind of fill in because it kind of like looks so similar that like they kind of just assume it's all the same thing. So what I usually do, just lower the opacity of that part, and then I go over with the then I use the paint bucket tool, and then I put it back on, just so I don't have to like change like the whole thing around. So I will say, since they look as similar as they do, you might want to take that into consideration. So like you could like make it look more contrasting when hold on, when you're going over with the shading, because like if it looks that similar, that kind of gets like flagged as like the same color, it might be something you might want to go back and tweak a bit, just so it looks nicer. Alright, with this, I think for the most part, I've got just about as much shading as I want to be done with this. Let me just touch up this real quick. Yeah. This is about as much shading as I want to do for it. Now, just because of how vibrant colors are, like I said before, I usually don't want to make the lighting, the shading of it too dark compared to the brightness of the original colors. So that's why I made the shading as dark as it is with the multiply filter, just so it can move around the opacity. Just play around with that to see it, just so you can get to like the low, just like that degree that you want. So like you could have it be like really transparent, really light, or you could just have it really dark. And now you made it as dark as you did with the opacity. You can just move around until you get to the position that you like. I think usually when I do stuff, I usually set my opacity to about 75, because I just think that would look the neatest. Well, 75 to 85. That's about where my sweet spot is. Now that's for the shading itself. Now for the lighting, instead of using the multiply filter, I use the add one. You can add one. Well, like either use like this on lighten or screen. Either works. But I just like use the add one more. And instead of using like my regular pen and stuff, I use the airbrush. And you're gonna see why in a second. Now, when you're using the airbrush, you usually want to lower the opacity to about 30 to 40-ish. So that way, so you can like have like sort of soft lighting over it. But if you want to make it darker, you can just go back. You can just keep like drawing crosses. So just keep like going over it so it gets more potent and like layers on. Now for this, you want to go kind of light. You want to go kind of lightly, right? They obviously can't see it because it's white, but you kind of want to usually you want to make it kind of close to white, but at least close enough to the color that you want, so it's not completely blending in. And then you kind of just like go over it lightly. And as you can see, with me doing as light as I am, you can kind of see it, but still at the same time, So at the same time, if I want to make it darker, you just keep sketching over it until you get to the point that you like. Now I'm probably not gonna keep this. I'm just doing this for example purposes. But I'm at least doing this so I can add a bit more definition to it. I think that was the word I was looking for before. See what I mean? And then here again, you have to consider where your light source is coming from. So like you could put it somewhere right here, but that wouldn't really line up as to where you put your shading before. You kind of use your shading as like a basis as to where not to put the lighting, so that way you could also have a bit more guidelines as to where you're gonna put it, and from there it's kind of just filling it out where you think it's needed. Doesn't look too bad, does it? It's nice. Nothing too crazy, but at least it gives you the picture. Now, alternatively, if the airbrush isn't really what you want to go for, if it's a bit too light for your taste, the same way you use the multiply filter, you can also use, the same way you use the airbrush, use it, oh my gosh, use the airbrush the same way you use the multiply filter and just go by hand like this. It does get you just about the same result, and arguably a bit cleaner, since you know it's like more exact, and from there you just add some highlights to it. Usually when I go by hand like this, I don't add in too much. Actually, let me show you what I like to do. I might skip forward a bit. I might show some parts of this, but I'm gonna show you what I like to do when I go for this direction specifically. There. Yeah, wait, hold on. There. And that's kind of what you can get at when you're doing it by hand. It's like the same way you're doing same way you use the multiply filter. And kind of like how you use the multiply filter, you could do the inverse of that. Well, instead of lowering the opacity, if you want to make the lighting more vibrant, you instead duplicate. Oh wait, did I even put the add filter on? There we go. Yeah, like that. Well, the same way you could like adjust the contrast of the shading layer. You can do the same thing with the lighting one. Just mess around with the opacity till you get to a level that you like. For this one, it depends on how intense of lighting you want on it. I think I'm gonna go for maybe 40 for this one. I think that looks pretty nice. Yeah, I think 40 is gonna work for me. You see, just by adding those two, comparatively to how it looked before, it just has a lot more depth to it. Yeah, it just like makes it like rounds out the shapes a lot more. Just makes it just a lot more eye-catching. Now, what I was mentioning before, with what I like to do regardless of that, is I like to just go over it, just so like it looks a bit more clean. And like how I said, I put the lighting at the top, put the lighting at the top right corner. Keep a low opacity. You make the airbrush pretty big and just go over it like that. I want to toy around with it a little bit just so it can get to a position that you like. But it's just going over, making it a bit more clean. This is why I like using Airbrush a lot. It's like regardless of what I'm doing, I just like using the Airbrush. Now, same way I did that with the Airbrush first putting light over it all. You can also go, wait, which layer did I just put in? There. You can also go in, same way, lower, make it darker. Still have the Airbrush. Go over it like that. Now you might be wondering why I even decided to do the add in the shading and the light. I'm just gonna cover it over with the multiply layer. That's when you use like that's why you like this is where you start using the eraser tool more, and then you just start pushing it back. Just remember, lower opacity, pretty big airbrush. You just go over it, and you can really it just starts standing out a lot more now that you have it. Just like regardless of what you do, regardless of how you decide to shade it, how you decide to put in the lighting, it just makes it so much more better. And this is why I like using more vibrant colors. It feels like completely dark. This won't stand out as much. But now that I did that, it looks a lot smoother. And now that you have that look, now that you have like the whole thing over it, you can kind of like see where it was before. You can go back over it, maybe add in some spots that you liked in it, and just round it out more. It just makes the shading of it look a lot more dynamic, and overall just increases the quality of it. Don't want to make it too dark, obviously, so I might want to mess around the opacity of this as well. But just that combined with the line you just put over it, it just makes it blossom. Now the final thing you can do, I don't do this too much. Oh wait, this is still the eraser. I don't do this too much, but I know it does help. Is that you clip a color layer over the line art. Then you go over that and make that color of its own, like a blue. Like I said, I don't use this too much. Well, I don't. Well, it's not something I don't. That's something I exactly stray away from, but just nothing I usually prefer. I like usually. Oh my gosh, I like usually keeping the black lines, just for the sake of contrast. But same way, just messing around with the opacity. It just making the line art colored so it doesn't stand. I guess if you don't want to make it stand out against the colors you actually made, you can put it in there, and it just makes it all blend together so much nicer. If that's at least what you're going for. And you can just throw the same thing on the other. I'm not gonna lie, I forgot completely what these other layers are. I'm just assuming they're all line art. Yeah. It just makes it all come together so much cleaner. I probably won't keep as much dynamic lighting on this, like at least dramatic lighting on this, just because of the vibe of the character. This doesn't really call for it. But I don't know. I might keep it. Doesn't look too bad. Oh, doesn't look too bad. And so this is, this isn't necessarily an Ibis Paint exclusive thing, but something I do like to do, just so I can have a bit more, just so it just doesn't blend into the background as much. I just like going in here, going to stroke outer, just putting like a white outline around it. Just so there's that extra layer of contrast to make it stick out. Yeah. Okay, to essentially sum this up. To go back a little bit. What you usually want to start off with, at least for my drawing process, is that you want to start off with actually putting in the dark colors. That way sets the ground for the lighting later. And when you're putting in the dark colors, make sure you figure out, already have in mind the kind of definition, the shape of the object that you're drawing. Just kind of go around the edges. Doesn't need to be exact, but at least it doesn't have to be perfect either. Cause look at this. It's gonna bug. I'm not gonna forget about this. But it doesn't have to be exact. You just want to have it enough so there's gonna be enough contrast for you to work with. Just like kind of start shaping it out, making it stand out enough so you can tell, and just have that over your plain colors. Next, you want to add stuff like highlights and lighting. Just enough for it to stick out. You just add that one extra layer, that extra layer of depth to it. That again doesn't need to be exact. Same way the contrast. Same way the shading. And now that you have the shading, you use it as a basis. Kind of just draw across from that. See at least parallel. See how it's like you add the shade, you add the shading here. You add the lighting over here, just across from each other. So that's another thing you might want to keep in mind when you do it. Just wherever you put the shading, you put the line across from it. Well, obviously, it depends on what you're shading, but just as a general thing, it just kind of helps for me. And then that's the main part of it. But if you want to go in a little more, to make it stand out a bit more, add some more dynamic lighting to it, you can add in your light source. And with that, add in a blanket layer shading with the airbrush. And it just in general, it just makes it look a lot less flat. And then you start freeballing. You just throwing whatever you want. But yeah, that's about it. I'm probably am gonna add stuff. Probably am planning to add stuff into this, just alongside of it, just in case I can't get out the things I want to exactly. Because I do honestly do a lot better when a lot of things I say translate a lot better when it's written down. I probably am going to add just stuff in the video and in the description. I've probably already seen it if I did decide to do this. But yeah, that's about all I have for this one. I hope if anyone does see this, it does help. I know the stuff I'm saying isn't exactly very concise or exact. But since I don't really have a script or anything I'm going off of, or have exact points I want to say, it's just, for me, I learned a lot more but it's not exactly coming from a professional. It's kind of just coming from the mouth of someone who's, I guess more down to earth, and not like talking like a teacher, just talking like a guy. Just kind of why I'm putting it out there in case someone works the same and is just looking through this. And you know, if it works, it works. And if this helps, I'm glad for you. So yeah, I'm probably gonna finish this up now. So yeah, go next one, I guess.